Right now, sitting in your refrigerator, there's a food that's producing a cancer-causing compound 300% faster than if you'd stored it elsewhere, and it's probably something you eat multiple times a week. You think you're preserving your food and protecting your health, but for these 9 common foods, refrigeration is actually destroying their nutrients, ruining their taste, and in some cases, creating dangerous compounds. In the next few minutes, you'll discover which foods should never go in your fridge, the scientific reasons why, and exactly how to store them instead to maximize their health benefits. Welcome to this channel where we uncover the surprising truths about everyday health habits. If you find this information valuable, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss science-backed health insights that could change your life. Let's start with the first food that's being ruined in your fridge right now. Potatoes. Yes, those humble spuds sitting in your crisper drawer might be quietly transforming into a health hazard. When you store potatoes in the refrigerator, something sinister happens at the molecular level. The starches in potatoes begin converting to sugars, a process scientists call cold-induced sweetening. Now you might think, what's the harm in a little extra sweetness? Here's where it gets dangerous. When you cook these sugar-laden potatoes at high temperatures, whether you're frying, roasting, or baking them, those sugars combine with amino acids to form a compound called acrylamide. This isn't just some harmless byproduct. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. A study from the University of Idaho found that potatoes stored in the fridge showed a 300% increase in sugar content within just 2 weeks, and this happened regardless of the variety of potato. But the problems don't stop with potential cancer risk. Cold storage breaks down the cell structure of potatoes, resulting in a gritty, overly sweet texture that ruins your favorite dishes. If you've ever made mashed potatoes that tasted oddly sweet or had a strange, grainy consistency, your refrigerator was probably to blame. So how should you store potatoes? Keep them in a cool, dark place with temperatures between 45 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Think pantry or cellar. Use paper bags or baskets that allow for air circulation. And whatever you do, avoid plastic bags. Plastic traps moisture and causes rot. Here's a pro tip. Keep your potatoes away from onions. The gases they emit actually accelerate spoilage in each other. With proper storage, potatoes can last up to 3 months. In the fridge, they're ruined in 2 weeks. Let's talk about bread. There's a common misconception that refrigerating bread keeps it fresher longer. The truth is exactly the opposite. Refrigeration makes bread go stale faster, much faster. The culprit is a process called starch retrogradation, where starch molecules crystallize and expel moisture. This process is dramatically accelerated in cold temperatures. Research from the Institute of Food Technologists shows that bread stored in the fridge stales 6 times faster than bread kept at room temperature. 6 times. That means a loaf that could stay fresh for 6 days at room temperature will be stale in just 1 day in your refrigerator. But it's not just about texture. Cold temperatures destroy the volatile organic compounds responsible for bread's aroma and flavor. That wonderful smell of fresh bread? Gone. What you're left with tastes like cardboard. The best way to store bread is in a bread box or a paper bag at room temperature, where it can have some air circulation. If you know you can't finish a loaf within a week, here's what you should do instead. Slice it and freeze it. Freezing actually preserves bread better than refrigeration because it halts starch retrogradation entirely. And here's a time-saving trick. Toast frozen slices directly from the freezer. Don't thaw them first, because thawing causes moisture problems that make the bread soggy. Now let's discuss garlic, one of nature's most powerful health foods, unless you're storing it in the refrigerator. When you refrigerate garlic, several problems emerge almost immediately. First, it starts sprouting. Those bitter green shoots that pop out of the cloves, they can upset your digestion and ruin the flavor of your dishes. But sprouting is the least of your concerns. The moist environment of your refrigerator encourages mold growth on garlic, and some of these molds produce mycotoxins, harmful compounds that can cause serious health problems. Even more concerning from a nutritional standpoint, research from UC Davis shows that refrigerated garlic loses 50% of its allicin content within just 10 days. Allicin is the compound responsible for garlic's antibacterial properties and its heart-healthy benefits. So by refrigerating your garlic, you're cutting its medicinal value in half. Cold temperatures also break down garlic's cell walls, making it mushy and difficult to chop. You've probably experienced this, trying to mince refrigerated garlic only to have it turn into a slimy paste on your cutting board. Garlic at room temperature, on the other hand, releases its flavors more readily when you cook with it, making your dishes taste better. Store garlic in a cool, dry place with temperatures between 60 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit and good air circulation. Use mesh bags or baskets, never plastic or sealed containers. Keep it away from sunlight and heat to prevent sprouting. Whole heads of garlic can last up to 6 months when stored properly, but once you've broken the head, use those cloves within 10 days. Here's something that might shock you: bananas. These tropical fruits are completely unprepared for the cold environment of your refrigerator. Bananas evolved in warm climates, and their cells simply aren't equipped to handle cold temperatures. When you refrigerate bananas, they experience what scientists call chilling injury. Their cell membranes rupture, leading to that mushy, blackened appearance you've probably seen. But the visible damage is only part of the story. A study from the Queensland Department of Agriculture found that bananas stored below 56 degrees Fahrenheit lose 80% of their vitamin C within just 5 days. 80%! And it's not just vitamin C. Refrigeration halts the natural ripening process that produces beneficial compounds as bananas mature. You're essentially freezing the banana at whatever nutritional stage it was at when you put it in the fridge, while simultaneously destroying the nutrients that are already there. The solution is simple. Store bananas at room temperature, ideally between 56 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Hanging them is even better because it prevents bruising from contact with countertops. Want to control the ripening speed? To speed things up, place bananas in a paper bag with an apple. The ethylene gas they produce together accelerates ripening. To slow it down, separate the bananas and wrap their stems in plastic wrap. This limits ethylene release. Now, if your bananas are perfectly ripe and you absolutely need to extend their life for a day or two, you can refrigerate them for 1 to 2 days maximum, but understand that you're sacrificing significant nutritional quality. A better option? Peel them and freeze them for smoothies. Onions are another food that suffers tremendously from refrigeration, and the reasons might surprise you. Onions require low humidity to stay fresh, around 65% or less. But your refrigerator maintains humidity levels around 95%. This excess moisture creates the perfect environment for mold growth, including black mold species that produce aflatoxins. These are potent carcinogens that pose serious health risks. Beyond the safety concerns, refrigeration fundamentally changes the nature of onions. Cold temperatures convert their starches to sugars, dramatically altering their flavor profile. This makes them unsuitable for savory dishes where you need that sharp, pungent onion flavor. The texture also suffers. Refrigerated onions become soft and mushy, and they lose their ability to caramelize properly. If you've ever tried to cook with refrigerated onions and wondered why I turned into a soggy mess instead of developing those beautiful golden brown edges, now you know. Store whole onions in a cool, dry, well-ventilated space with temperatures between 45 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Use mesh bags, baskets, or even old pantyhose, anything that provides excellent air circulation. Keep them away from potatoes and out of direct sunlight to prevent spoilage and sprouting. Properly stored whole onions can last for weeks or even months. Now, there's one important exception to this rule. Cut onions should be refrigerated. Once you've cut into an onion, store the remainder in an airtight container in the fridge and use it within 7 days. Let's move on to tomatoes and prepare yourself because the science here is particularly disturbing. Refrigeration doesn't just affect tomato texture and taste, it actually turns off their genes. Yes, you heard that right. Research from the University of Florida discovered that temperatures below 54 degrees Fahrenheit deactivate hundreds of genes in tomatoes, specifically the genes responsible for producing flavor compounds. And here's the worst part. This damage is permanent. Even if you bring the tomatoes back to room temperature, those genes don't turn back on. Tomatoes are one of the richest sources of lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that's been linked to reduced risk of heart disease and certain cancers. But cold storage reduces lycopene availability by up to 65%. It also destroys the enzymes your body needs to absorb lycopene, making the remaining nutrients essentially useless to you. So that tomato sitting in your fridge might look fine, but nutritionally, it's a shadow of what it should be. There's also a textural problem. Ice crystals form between the cell walls of refrigerated tomatoes, creating microscopic punctures throughout the flesh. This is why refrigerated tomatoes often have that mealy, grainy texture that's so unappetizing. Store tomatoes at room temperature, between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, stem side down to prevent moisture from entering through the stem scar. Keep them out of direct sunlight, but don't hide them in a dark cabinet either. They need some ambient light. Avoid plastic bags, which trap ethylene gas and accelerate decay. Use ripe tomatoes within 3 to 5 days for maximum nutrition and flavor. If you have excess tomatoes, make them into sauce and freeze that instead. Avocados are another nutritional powerhouse that gets completely ruined by refrigeration. These fruits are prized for their healthy fats and high antioxidant content, but when you put them in the fridge, you trigger a process called lipid peroxidation. This is where the healthy fats in avocados begin to break down and oxidize, destroying the very compounds that make avocados so beneficial. Stanford University researchers found that refrigerated avocados lose 90% of their antioxidant activity within just 4 days. 90% in 4 days. That's devastating. The cold also activates an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, which breaks down cell walls and converts healthy compounds into bitter-tasting substances. Remember that creamy, buttery texture that makes avocados so delicious? Refrigeration destroys it. The fats separate from the fiber, resulting in an oily, stringy mess that's completely unappetizing. For unripe avocados, store them at room temperature, between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, with good air circulation. Want to speed up ripening? Place them in a paper bag with a banana. The ethylene gas works wonders. Once an avocado is ripe, you can refrigerate it for 2 to 3 days if you absolutely must, but understand that the quality loss is significant. For cut avocados, there's a special trick to minimize browning and preserve quality. Keep the pit in the unused half, brush the exposed flesh with lemon juice, and store it in an airtight container with a slice of onion. The sulfur compounds from the onion help prevent oxidation. Next up, here's one that surprises almost everyone: honey. This is a food that has literally been found edible in Egyptian tombs thousands of years old. Honey is naturally resistant to spoilage and needs no refrigeration whatsoever. In fact, refrigeration ruins honey in several ways. First, cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize rapidly. That smooth, golden liquid you love transforms into a grainy, hard mass that's difficult to use. But crystallization is just the cosmetic issue. More seriously, refrigeration can introduce moisture into honey, especially when you open and close the jar and condensation forms. A study from the National Honey Board found that honey stored below 50 degrees Fahrenheit loses up to 35% of its antimicrobial properties. These are the compounds that give honey its natural antibiotic effects and help it last indefinitely. Honey contains over 180 different compounds that contribute to its complex flavor profile. Cold storage breaks these down unevenly, destroying the delicate balance that makes each variety of honey unique. Darker honeys, which are particularly rich in antioxidants, are especially vulnerable to this degradation. The solution is beautifully simple. Keep honey at room temperature, between 64 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, in a tightly sealed container. Avoid direct sunlight, but other than that, just leave it in your pantry. If your honey does crystallize, which can happen naturally over time, gently warm the jar in a bowl of warm water. Never microwave honey, as high heat destroys its beneficial enzymes. Finally, let's talk about coffee. Whether you're storing whole beans or ground coffee, the refrigerator is one of the worst places you can keep it. Coffee is highly porous, which means it absorbs odors from everything around it like a sponge. Your refrigerator is full of various food smells: last night's leftovers, that half an onion, whatever's in your produce drawer. All of those odors can infiltrate your coffee and ruin its flavor. But odor absorption is just the beginning. Temperature fluctuations between the cold fridge and room temperature cause condensation to form on the coffee. This moisture leads to premature aging and can even promote mold growth. A study from the Specialty Coffee Association found that refrigerated coffee beans lose 60% of their aromatic compounds within just 1 week. 60% of what makes coffee smell and taste like coffee gone in 7 days. There's also a chemical issue. The oils in coffee beans carry most of the flavor, and these oils solidify in cold temperatures. When you try to brew coffee from refrigerated beans, these solidified oils don't extract properly, leaving you with a flat, lifeless cup. Store coffee in an airtight, opaque container at room temperature, ideally between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Buy smaller quantities that you can use within 2 weeks of opening. If you absolutely need to store coffee long term, freezing is better than refrigeration, but only if you do it right. Divide the coffee into weekly portions in airtight containers, freeze them once and never refreeze. Take out only what you need and use it immediately. So there you have it, 9 foods that your refrigerator is secretly sabotaging. From cancer-causing compounds forming in potatoes to 90% nutrient loss in avocados, proper storage isn't just about taste, it's about your health, especially as we age and need every nutrient we can get. Which of these surprised you the most? Drop a comment below. I'd love to know if you've been making any of these mistakes. Most people are storing at least 3 or 4 of these foods incorrectly right now. If this video saved even one food from the fridge fate, smash that like button and subscribe for more health insights that actually matter. Now go check your refrigerator and rescue those foods before it's too late. And if you're wondering what foods you should be refrigerating that most people leave out, stick around for the next video. Trust me, you'll want to see that one.